Here's the code we were just looking at. If you played with this, you should have found that when you change the turtle's name in only one line of code, the program won't work. When you try to run it, you just get an error message. But if you change the name in all of these lines, it works just fine. We can better understand why that's happening if we look more closely at this line. George equals turtle.turtle.
On a general level, we can think of this line as creating a turtle and giving that turtle a name. This part on the right, turtle.turtle parentheses, is the part that creates a new turtle. And this part on the left, George, says what the turtle's name will be. But what do we mean when we say this code is creating a turtle? Well, Python has a bunch of information about how a turtle works, how to get this virtual robot to move around in different ways and draw things on the screen. In order to be able to use a turtle in our program, we first need to make a copy of some of this data in the computer's memory. So when we run this code, turtle.turtle, Python finds some free space in the computer's memory, and it puts this turtle data into that space. Basically, we're getting things ready so that we can use this data whenever we need to have the turtle draw something. So we now have the data we need for the virtual turtle robot in this specific location in the computer's memory. By the way, you'll hear us refer to this as a turtle data object, or simply a turtle object.
If we want to be able to use this turtle object, we can't just put the data in memory. We also need to have some way of talking about that turtle, giving it instructions, and so on. We need some way of referring to that turtle. That's why we give it a name, like George. Once the turtle data object has been placed in memory and given a name, we can use that name whenever we want to do something with the turtle. For example, if we want the turtle named George to go forward or turn, we can use lines like george.forward 100 and george.right 90. If we first say that we are referring to this data object as George, but then later try to refer to it with a different name, like Amy, it's not going to work. Our code hasn't connected Amy with any particular data in memory. We can use pretty much whatever name we want, but we have to be consistent, or Python won't know what data we're referring to.
Now, this concept isn't just something that applies to naming turtles. The general idea here is that we put some data into the computer's memory, and then we connect that data to a name that we can use in our code. When we have a connection between a name in the code and some data in memory, there's a specific term we use for this. It's called a variable. The reason we call it a variable is because this connection is able to vary. That is, we can change what data a variable refers to. We can say this variable refers to some data in one place in memory, but then later in our program we could change it so the variable refers to some other data in a different location in memory.
A variable is kind of like a box with a label on it. We can use the label to refer to whatever is in that box, but we could later take the label off and stick it onto a different box instead. To tell the computer that a particular data object should have a particular name tag, we use lines like George equals turtle.turtle. Notice how this line splits into two parts around the equal sign. On the right is the code turtle.turtle, which creates a new turtle. On the left is George, which is the name that we are giving to the variable. In the middle is the equal sign, which tells Python, take this thing on the right and connect it with the name on the left. By the way, when we connect a name with some data in memory, we refer to this process as assignment. We are assigning the data from the code on the right and the name on the left. The equal sign is called an assignment operator, and we can refer to a line of code like George equals turtle.turtle as an assignment statement. Notice that the stuff on the right of an assignment statement always happens first. First, we create a new turtle, and then we assign that turtle to the name George.